All right. Hello, everybody. Hello. My name is Kieth Raymond. I'm a principal analyst at Celent. We're a global research and advisory firm for financial industry. And we're here to talk about artificial intelligence and intelligent processing. I was here yesterday talking about GPT and other LLMs, so we're not going to hit that really hard, but we'll probably dabble with that a little bit. But I just wanted to let my esteemed panel here introduce themselves, starting with BK.
Sure. Hey everyone, my name is BK. I run the financial services and insurance business at Quantify. We are an AI-first digital engineering firm solving problems for insurers with a combination of professional services and products. Excited to be here and talk about AI.
Hi, my name is David Reale. I lead the disruptive tech team at Travelers. Our focus is primarily on business use cases and how technology can be an enabling force for those use cases.
And my name is Bas. I'm the insurance leader at Instabase, which is the intelligent automation platform for unstructured data. And we'll dive into a little bit more during this panel what all of that means.
So I'm just curious, just by show of hands, any insurers in the audience? Yeah, and of those, how many of you, your organizations are using artificial intelligence in some way, shape, or form? Cool.
It's cool.
Sorry, I just recognized the face over there. So, you know, a lot of capital investments going into intelligent automation, you know, prior to COVID, but then fueled by the pandemic. For a lot of different reasons too, right? So the pandemic fueled it, a lot of investments on the front end for obvious reasons, the virtualization of everything. And now we're starting to slowly see a lot of investments turning to more the middle and back end. And so question for you guys is, with all the capital investment that's going on, where are your organizations focused when it comes to AI and how's it being applied?
Sure. I think you covered the first part. Pandemic kind of fueled the whole front end side of it, where you can use AI to kind of streamline processes, make processes virtual. So we at Quantify look at AI through the lens of transformation, starting from experience all the way to infrastructure. And the first three blocks, which is experience, automation, and insights, that's where AI plays a big role. The experience layer is the one where you touch an end customer, a stakeholder, and that's when a lot of the investments initially went in when COVID came in, where contact centers were made touchless. You had call deflections going on, and that's where we saw a majority of investments getting in. In the last I would say 24 to 36 months, what we are also seeing investments now getting poured into looking at critical business processes, whether you are doing underwriting, whether you're doing claims, or any kind of policy servicing. I'm sure Bas is going to talk about it as well, where we are seeing a lot of momentum coming in terms of reducing cycle time, in terms of reducing claims, F&OL cycle time, where you are trying to reduce time, increase productivity, as well as remove errors. So we're seeing a lot of investments going there. And then the traditional work, which is traditional insights that used to exist in the insurance world, has started using modern tech more frequently. So these are three areas where I see a lot of investments going in.
Yeah. Awesome, BK. How about you, Daniel?
Yeah, so I think right now you're seeing a lot of the, let's call it the new flavor of AI that people are excited about being explored for the traditional automation use cases, right? So people are trying to like lift and load. Does it fit here? At the same time, you're also trying to work through the thought process of where are the stretch goals where we could apply this, with always the North Star being how do we empower or make our team members more efficient or more capable, as opposed to replacing or minimizing the touch. It's maximizing the effectiveness. I think it's probably the first generation you'll see these tools be used. That is all couched by the fact that you have to really instill in folks what these tools are not, so that they're focused right now on laying the foundation for how to use these most effectively over the next coming years. Right. Because there is a strong thought in our heads that there will be a commoditization of these tools as they get more interest, as they get more funding, as they become more prolific. You will probably also see a narrowing of the funnel to commoditize these tools. And so you want to make sure you build your investments in places that will maximize those commodities down the road.
Baastian?
Yeah, I'd love to build on Bhaskar's point. I mean, I think the IT stack historically has been one where you have like a layer that basically engages with the end customer, and then you have a layer that is effectively data storage, data structure, your policy admin systems, claim admin systems, etc. And the big development that has been happening over the past few years is that in between those two layers, there is now a third layer, which it's been called the intelligence layer, if you will. So to take data that is coming in, make something of that, make it more intelligent, and then store that for like further storage. And this is not followed by me. Goei has a famous VC, has done a fantastic paper on that I highly recommend. And so where an investment for our company is going is to make that intelligence layer as adaptable as possible. Because the developments in this space, and you mentioned GPT earlier, are going so incredibly fast that it's really important to have an incredibly modular and highly adaptable intelligence layer inside of your organization so you can actually stay in the cutting edge of innovation as your organization. Because inevitably, where ChatGPT and the latest LLM models are currently the hottest thing, I guarantee you that in 3 months from now, there is something else that is going to be incredibly exciting. And so setting up that intelligence layer in your organization such that you can actually adapt to all of these new technologies that are coming out in an enterprise, safe, compliant way, that is where we put our dollars.
Great, thanks. BK, many organizations are using AI with third-party data. How do you see it being applied in areas like the customer acquisition or risk selection areas for insurance?
Sure. Obviously the front office where you acquire customers and then you write risks. I think those are the two areas where the impact can be really profound, right? Where first of all you help using all the different kinds of data sources that are currently available in the market, where you can look at social media data, you can look at all kinds of data from the internet, which you can use for your customer selection. So that's number one. So Google Analytics is playing a big role in most of the carrier ecosystem, where you can track customer movement, you can track their behavior, and use those data to kind of start looking at various options like cross-sell, upsell. How do you identify the right product for the right customer? So the whole concept of hyper-personalization, there big impact of third-party data. And then once you identify the customer, and as you go through the process of writing the risk, there are various touch points where data will play a big role. Traditionally, you'll have a set of data coming in, you have an underwriter spending a lot of time evaluating the risks, but all these third-party data are now making their lives much more easier. You have data in front of them in a particular format, which makes their decision-making faster. I'll not go to claims. Obviously, the claim story is a little bit advanced, where third-party data has been used for a long time. But I would say front office and underwriting would be two areas where carriers can benefit the most now.
Yeah. Great, thank you. We touched on GPT and other LLMs yesterday from a ethics and bias perspective for the most part. So let's push that aside for a minute, because I think this is a great group to ask at least one large language model question to. Crazy level of excitement, crazy level of adoption, as I stated yesterday. The fastest growing consumer application in history.
Yep.
100 million unique users in 2 months' time, right? That's 7 months faster than TikTok, if you could believe that. So how do you see insurers leveraging this technology? And I'm gonna start with David.
So I might be contrarian here, right? Because a lot of thought has been gone into where are the limitations of these models, right? And I think right now you still see a lot of people kind of looking at them at the surface, right? They're intelligent, they know what I'm thinking, they're smart, they have context. But, and a lot of initiatives kicked off with that in mind, right? That I don't have to do much. I just have to point it here, point it there, and it'll tell me an insight, it'll tell me how to underwrite, it'll tell me what to do about this claim. And as people started looking at it and playing with it, they started realizing it really understands what I'm asking, but it doesn't understand the context, doesn't understand the worldview that this is occurring in. And so I think you'll actually, this might be contrarian, see a smaller role for LLMs in the next few years. You're also seeing indications from players like OpenAI that they might have hit the limit, right? They're not making a GPT-5, right? They don't know if they'll get past that. So I think over the next 2 months, as people recalibrate their expectations, because the other thing that happened was a lot of people would say, you can't do this now, but I guarantee you in 6 months it will. I think that's being tested right now. So I'm not going to try to predict how it will be used in insurance in the next couple of years. I think it'll play a very meaningful role as some sort of glue between data planes, between data sources, and it'll enable more people to access well-stored, well-organized data more effectively, and that will spur some innovation, but I'm not going to predict where it'll go. I just think it'll be lesser than people expect in the near term and take longer to get there.
Would you agree that it's been a very successful worldwide beta?
Fantastically successful. But it's also, in a way, allowed people to crowdsource. It is a beta, right? It allowed people to kind of crowdsource the edges and find the boundaries and the contours of what it can and can't do much quicker than you would probably see for less hyped technologies, right? Because if you go on to anywhere like Substack or Twitter, and you'll see what people did, and they'll outline the test they did for you. And that allows you to not have to do that, or immediately go there and test it if that's relevant to your application. So I think the cycle might go quicker. People will find the right uses faster than maybe in other tech cycles.
Baastian, I'm sure you have an alternate opinion.
Well, yes and no. I mean, I agree with the idea that this type of technology is both overestimated in the sense like, oh, we have AI taking over the world in the next 6 months. That's not going to happen. It's underestimated in the highly practical applications that can be applied and that we are working on over literally the next months. So ChatGPT, obviously a product from OpenAI, is based, its underlying technology is a large language model. I think that everyone in the audience has by now heard about LLM and large language models. And there has actually been this is not a completely new thing, it's the latest iteration in a long line of large language models, machine learning, heuristics and rules-based technology if you go further back in time. And so the very practical difference that we will see and are seeing right now is that where previously, if you are, for instance, receiving your claims or commercial submissions, which emailed in by a broker, for example, a lot of companies that we're working with, they are training machine learning and deep learning technologies in order to understand these submissions, prioritize these submissions in the order of which you want to take them, etc. And all of that takes a lot of training and takes a lot of implementation effort. Now, what you see with the latest large language models, which are, that is live today, is that what you have something called zero shot, as in other words, without any training at all, a technology based on large language models is able to understand a commercial submission the very first time without having been trained at all. And so that is technology that is going live over the next few weeks, and that our companies like ours are actively selling into all of the carriers and brokers that are present here today. And that type of efficiency is something that's real, and that is coming to market, not like maybe next year or 2 years or whatever. That's live today. So I think that is the underestimation part of this equation.
Yeah, great perspective. How about you, BK? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I agree to what David and Bas just said, right? I mean, at the end of the day, first you got to realize the boundaries. We have seen what ChatGPT and LLM from OpenAI can do using public data. The trick here is to bring LLMs inside the enterprise, behind the firewall, and how do you use them to bring the context, as David called out. I mean, LLMs you're talking about 70 billion parameters, you need GPUs to run on it, but when you talk about enterprise grade, you may have to look at some of the other smaller LLMs, so to speak, which will be really functional and can do the job. Right now, we are doing 3 pilots with some of the carriers in terms of search, context search, in terms of helping them process claims, kind of assistance, etc. And there, the trick, you will find that, you may not be able to use those large language models, but you can look at some of their cousins, and there are like every 3 days something is popping up right now, right? So the important thing for folks like us is to educate the carrier landscape, and there are obviously innovation hubs like for, units like that David is running, who already knows about it. But the idea is for us to give the industry a framework to use those LLMs in the right way and solve problems. But there is a lot of practical applicability out there.
So BK, I want to stick with you on this. So, AI is only as good as the data behind it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I think everybody knows that.
Yeah.
And in the insurance industry, especially in the life side, data can be a mess.
Yeah.
Right? We've got legacy all over the place. I've actually been to one large insurer that had 26 different legacy systems. Yeah. And it's through the years of acquisition and merger and all that kind of stuff. But hey, they have to deal with that stuff, right? So it's important to have a data strategy behind AI in order for the AI and intelligent processing to be as successful as it can be. What are your thoughts about data strategies behind intelligent automation? What should insurers be looking to do to make AI as successful as possible?
It's paramount. I mean, having standardized data is extremely critical, because at the end of the day, what data you feed in, that's the result you will get, right? So in the context of Quantify, our AI-first digital landscape, includes the work that you do with applied AI, but also the standardization that you do with data. Both needs to go together. While you can start building models, experimenting with with the usage of AI, with the data that is available, parallelly you have to start thinking about how do you standardize it to use AI at scale. So it's absolutely paramount. Yeah. Without that, I don't think you will be able to apply the benefits of AI at an enterprise level. You will probably do it in pockets.
Dash?
Well, I may have like a slightly contrarian view there. So whenever we engage with our customers, we never talk first about data strategy. In fact, the first thing that I would love to know is your operational strategy, your business strategy. What do you want to achieve? How much faster do you want to pay out claims? How much more accurate do you want to make those? How much better do you want to become at underwriting and improving your combined ratio, loss ratio, etc. And from that, we can actually distill down what that means in terms of like, okay, so how much more data do you require? Like, how much faster how can we leverage AI technologies in order to process some of these things much faster? So for me, it always starts with like, okay, what is the operational strategy as a company and the objectives that you have? Technology-wise, we can make that happen. Like, but it needs to start with a clear operational view on what you want to achieve as a company, and subsequently we can align the technology towards that.
David, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think I'll split the difference on that, because I agree that you start with the business strategy, but then there's the reality of the fact that travelers always say perform and transform, right? We have these systems, they're performing for us today. We can't really lift and load them, we can't move them, we can't quarantine them off. So then you talk about your data strategy and how do you do the transform. It's probably the wrong time to make big bets on what that connective tissue to actually going to ops will be. But it's a no-regret action to look at your data strategy and say, okay, no matter what happens, no matter what picks and shovels are built by the industry for us to make the best use of our data, it's not going to be useful to us in any way, shape, or form if our data is confused and has poor quality and poor integrity. And more importantly, and this is kind of the Trojan horse which this LLM discussion is giving us, data strategy was never sexy. No one ever really wanted to talk to it and invest in it at a large scale unless it was causing them a problem. This is an opportunity for the industry to go back and say, hey, the data is available to you, great. But most people outside the core silo that uses that data don't really know what it means. right? They look at it and they go, great, I have this API, I have this database access, and I got all these columns, and I got all these roll-ups, but I don't know what it's telling me. This is an opportunity to fix that in pursuit of something that might be transformative in a few years. So I look at this as an opportunity to go back and get your data house in order and sell it in a way that is appealing to senior leadership.
Awesome. Yeah, great thoughts. So where do you guys see intelligent automation going in the very near future? Are any trends or any areas of significant impact, including the LLM space, where you just see it kind of blasting off, if you will, in the near future? Baastian, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I love the difference between like what is happening in the next 12 to 24 months and what's happening in like probably we can allow ourselves to look out for maybe 3 years, 4 years max, probably.
I was going to ask you that next.
Yeah, I think what is immediately happening, and I mentioned this already, what is happening today is most of the companies that we are currently working with, they are ready to implement deep learning strategies. So deep learning technology is something that sits right before like the very large language models that we see in the news. And so what that means is implementing deep learning inside of like the fabric of your organizations is that it makes it incredibly efficient to process submissions and claims and make those types of processes incredibly more efficient. And so where today underwriters spend up to 40% of their time literally just transcribing data, asking for missing data that the broker didn't submit, or double checking, or like having fat fingers and putting the wrong data into their underwriting workbench, that is being fixed today. And so I see a tremendous uptake from the large carriers all across the industry of implementing these types of strategies and freeing up the capacity for their underwriters and adjusters and allowing them to focus a lot more on the art of underwriting and customer interaction during a time of need, during an important claim. And so I think that is very, very exciting of what we are able to do. This industry has frequently been accused of, well, you're not in touch enough with people, with your customers, not all of these types of things, which I, having worked myself for 10 years at a large carrier, I think is horribly unfair, but it's a real accusation.
Right.
And that type of technology finally now allows us to actually address that. And then I think we'll come back on the 5-year point, so I'll rest here.
Well, you can, go ahead. You could talk about the future as well. I would go into it. Where do you see it evolving to in the next 3 to 5?
Sure. So what is really happening is that the types of large language models, they do two things really well. So the first one is effectively an iteration of what we have been seeing for a number of years already, is that they are able to understand documents, emails, and any type of data that is being fed really, really easily without any training at all. And so that is really exciting in the sense that it helps to take one important part away of what we all do every day in, day out, like understanding what is this email about, what are the attachments, is everything present, what does it actually mean for me, and how do I fill all of this out in an underwriting workbench or claims management system. Now the second step is what we call generative AI. This is based on the same type of models, but now we can use these models to also generate responses, generate entire policy documents. So going from one bit where you actually receive a submission saying like, hey, this is the type of risk cover that I'm looking for, these are the elements, this is the company, this and this size, it's this industry, going all the way from understanding that now to like, hey, and here is a sample framework policy that actually fits that particular risk profile really well, and the underwriter would only need to have a skim through that to see if it's okay. So this second bit of generative AI to actually generate responses towards incoming data, that is what we would see like coming up very, very rapidly over the next 24 to 36 months.
Right. And David, how about your thoughts?
No surprise, I'm probably going to be a little more reserved. It depends what lens you look at it from. If you're looking at
You're
it
an insurer. You should be more reserved.
It's in my DNA. If you're looking at it from a customer lens, I don't think you're going to see much in the next 12 months for a variety of factors. Regulatory reasons, internal process change, and system integration take time at a large carrier. But you're already seeing the seeds of experimentation happening within all the teams spread across the enterprise, right? And so what I think you'll see in the next 12 months from the internal side is an empowerment of testing ideas. These aren't ideas that didn't exist before LLMs, but it'll allow certain teams to be a little more powerful and a little more expedient getting that test out to the business and see if there's something there. That's what but you won't see that from the outside. And then I think, Boz is right, when you get to that 24, 36 months, I think that's when you might see some of the fruits of that work from outside the carrier.
Right.
That's when you start seeing it. You might see some stuff earlier if you're a producer. You might see some simpler integrations from that perspective in the 12 to 24 month range. But I think it really is more going to allow people to experiment and fail a little faster. But there's also the thing that we don't talk about much in tech, but I know we talk about a lot at Travelers, is the liability concerns when content is being generated at a faster pace with weak oversight. That could be something that hits all of us faster than we want it to.
Right.
And so that might be the first inkling of the impact of generative AI in the insurance industry.
Yeah. BK, thoughts?
I think Bas covered most of the use cases.
Yeah.
So just talking about use cases, underwriting is a slam dunk. We already know claims. I mean, there are places where this tech can really change the game when it comes to reducing expense ratios and also improving customer satisfaction, right? And these are proven use cases. And then taking it forward, you look at 24 to 36 month generative AI, as I think both the panelists spoke about it. There are a bunch of use cases. I mean, you don't need to now create, you probably don't have to generate a quote by standard means. You can have generative AI generate quotes, broker letters, communications, etc. So there is a bunch of use cases. But one point I want to just piggyback on what it just said was, experimentation. It's also important that when you experiment, you want to divide those experimentations into 3 halves. One half will be proven use cases that you have seen in the industry so that you can get good real benefits and you feel confident about this tech. And then you use the next, I would say 35% on things that are near term, new, it's been tried some places, you want to try it within the org. And then only reserve 5 to 10% on absolutely new thing, because there is always a chance that you try it, it doesn't work out and you get disappointed, right? So you've got to make sure that you utilize your time appropriately.
Yeah, and if you think about even OpenAI and their GPT model, it took 6 years to get it to the November release. That's a long time. So when insurers are thinking about should I start now, the answer is yeah, you probably should, right? You don't have to launch it now. You could be utilizing, training, and learning, and not be far behind the ones that are starting now. 2 years from now when you may decide to get into it, right? So I think early adoption is great from a learning and experience perspective, and figuring out along the way where it can be applied, where you may want it to, whether it be on the lower risk areas, when it comes to like sales and marketing, customer experience, or in the potential higher risk areas as far as claims processing and underwriting. With that, I'm feeling the pressure of lunch. Starting to sweat. We went a little bit over. But any last thoughts you would leave the audience, especially from a standpoint of strategic planning for AI? Is there any tidbits you'd leave the audience before we depart? Baastian, I'll start with you.
Maybe just something very simple. Understand your processes first. If you do not understand your current processes, then you're also not in a position to actually change them. So AI and intelligent automation is all great, and experimentation is great, but if you don't know what you actually want to change and what you want to achieve, then it's all going to be a bit of a pointless exercise. So doing good process discovery first, and then go out like, hey, this is what I want to improve on, and go out to find the right technology partners to help you achieve that. That would be my number one recommendation that I want to leave everyone with.
David?
I agree with the first part of that completely, and I would build on that to say, don't get sucked into the FOMO, right?
Yeah, yeah.
There are plenty of people out there that are really smart. They're learning how to use these things. If you get your process house in order and you get your data house in order and you're a large carrier, you're going to have the resources to go to market and find the AI tools to deliver business value. Right. So don't feel the need to make a big bet today on a specific use case. Spend the time learning what you're missing, learning your process, and getting your data in order would be my big picture strategic advice.
Great. BK?
Last thoughts, the tech is real. You have to admit it. And my advice will be that all carriers, InsurTechs, should all, think big, start small, and be ready to pivot. Right. I think that's the mantra.
All right, thanks guys. Great job. We give these guys a hand.
Thank you.
Any questions before you run off?